Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome out there in internet land to the Reasonably Fine Art Talk. We are here in beautiful Easton, Maryland, in the tension-filled, the auditorium here at the Wildfowl Museum. They've got ducks here. You want buffleheads, they got buffleheads. You want geese, they got geese. You want mallards, they got more mallards than you've ever seen in your life, ladies and gentlemen. And the crowds in front of us, hundreds of people are gathered here. Give it up, Easton, for the Reasonably Fine Art Talk. Just listen to that energy pulsing through the audience. It's mind-bending, ladies and gentlemen. It's mind-bending. Well, we're here today. It is the 19th annual Plein Air Easton. This is the penultimate celebration until the Big 20. And boy, oh boy, you can just see that people are figuring out which works to add to their collection right now. Oh, they're flying off the walls, ladies and gentlemen. They are flying off the walls. But as established and as well known as Plein Air Easton is, this is also simultaneously, concurrently going on, is Local Color, which is a show put on by the Working Artists Forum of Easton, Maryland. And my guest today on the Reasonably Fine Art Talk is Ms. Carol McLeese of the Working Artists Forum. Thank you for joining us, Carol.
Well, thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, let's hear it for Carol McLeese, you hundreds of people out there. You! Rock and roll! Carol McLeese.
Yes.
Tell us a little about the illustrious history of Working Artists Forum, how Local Color came to be. How did it come to coexist peaceably or violently with Plein Air Easton?
Well, of course it was peaceably, and it was well-intentioned, and the Working Artists Forum was started, the concept was started in 1979 by a group of 4 or 5 women who lived here in the Eastern Shore, and they were affiliated with, at that time, the Academy, which this was before it became the museum, and they wanted to have an organization that would be serving the people on the Eastern Shore for their art needs, education needs, painting needs, camaraderie. And so in 1981, that really came to fruition, and they developed a really nice relationship with the Academy, and they became the Working Artists Forum. And it's a really distinguished group of both men and women. At that time, I think it started with about 60 members. And today it's grown to over 100 members, and it's still growing. And it's just a great group.
Now, the title exemplifies what the group is. It seemed, I read that history that you sent to me.
Yes.
And it seems like one of the very important things one of the important aspects of this organization is that it is for artists who actually are actively trying to build careers.
Correct.
It is the Working Artists Forum, because apparently a bunch of other titles, when they were getting going, a bunch of other titles kept getting proposed, but they kept going back to, they kept tabling the other possible names and kept going back to Working Artists Forum.
Right.
I think that, in a way, kind of distinguishes the group from many other civic art organizations in towns. Do you know why that was considered so important?
Well, I really think it's really important because the people that, well, initially it was the group of women, but since then it's men and women. But it's important that you know that the Working Artists Forum were really considered to be, at that time, professional artists who were selling their work. They were exhibiting their work all over, and that's what their intentions were. And they did not want to be considered just Sunday painters. And that was really an important piece. It was also the fact that they were all striving to improve their painting and their painting processes. And so education was a huge piece. They would not only go to workshops together, they would provide a lot of educational opportunities all over the United States and sometimes abroad so that they could improve. And again, they were working, they were making a living selling their art.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, hundreds and hundreds of people here all clamoring. I see the sea of hands already being raised with questions, but if people have a question, just shout louder than your people around you, and just raise your hand and let me know if you need a question asked, because we're all about the interactivity here, because this is important that we all learn about this. Now, how did you get involved in it?
Well, I'm from Baltimore. I'm originally from New England.
There are a lot of people from Baltimore who aren't involved in it. That's no answer at all.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
I'll
from
tell
Baltimore.
you.
How'd you get involved in it? I'm from Baltimore.
I'll tell you. I was a group of us from Baltimore. We're involved with the Plein Air group there, and one of the ladies, her name is Lisa Mitchell, and she was holding a pastel class down here on the Eastern Shore. And so we all came down and joined her for the class because we not only liked hanging out together, but we really enjoyed her. She's a great instructor and she's just a great person. And so we ended up taking this plein air pastel class at some kind of Shipman Museum or something over there in Easton. And I ended up meeting a lot of people. I've never met a stranger. And I met a lot of people there, and they encouraged me to join the St. Michael's Art League, and because that was who was sponsoring Lisa's workshop. And I said, sure, I'd be delighted to join. So there was a couple of us that joined, and I became active with St. Michael's Art League, and then I decided that I should try to get into Working Artists Forum. And that's kind of a process in itself, because there's an application process. You have to be sponsored. You have to fill out an application. And then you can only try to do it once a year. And it's always in September. And you have to bring 5 pieces of work, 4 in your regular media, and then you have to have 1 in graphite, because it's really important that the judges know that you can also draw and not just, throw paint on paper.
So there's the St. Michael's Artists League. Is that what it was called?
I took the workshop with the St. Michael's Art League.
And then there's also the Working Artists Forum. Is it kind of a blood and Crips situation? Is there definite turf lines? Can you paint right up to the line? Is that then the St. Michael's posse descends? Hey, you're painting our cornfield.
That's really interesting. Initially, back when the Working Artists Forum got started, the St. Michael's Art League was part of it, as well as separate groups that they all did work with the Academy. And actually, when we first started getting involved with Plein Air Easton, which was the first year in 2004, St. Michael's Art League was part of that as well. And they continued doing that for 6 years, and then they broke away. So it's only been the Working Artists Forum that has done that since 2010.
All right. Wow, that's a lot of arts organizations I live in rural Vermont, and so there isn't a lot of kind of turf wars going on between the arts organizations. You got your own cornfields there. Now, you say that the Working Artists Forum is not. Let's differentiate. It's not a plein air group. It is people who are either primarily or attempting to primarily support themselves through their art.
It's a combination of a lot of things. There are a lot of plein air painters. In fact, there's a couple of plein air painters that are part of Plein Air Easton this year that are also members of the Working Artists Forum. There's a lot of studio painters. I think there's a lot of combination of different types of art that is happening amongst the individuals. And also, members of the Working Artists Forum also choose to be involved with other art organizations, such as the American Impressionist Society and other Oil Painters of America, things like that. So there's a lot of other opportunities going on.
So theoretically, if I was a conceptual artist, a non-representational, even two-dimensional artist, could one apply to Working Artists Forum, or is Working Artists Forum's two-dimensional?
Working Artists Forum is two-dimensional, and that has a lot to do also with, because one of our tenets is for exhibitions, and there's a lot of exhibition spaces that don't have a lot of space for three-dimensional art.
Right.
So that's pretty much intentional. It's not like we're trying to exclude any types of sculptures or anything like that. It's just that it's a practical decision.
Right, right. And to me, it's very interesting. Coming down here and being part of Plein Air Easton, I was unaware of the kind of separate histories of the two organizations, of Plein Air Easton and Working Artists Forum. I thought my untutored assumption was that, Plein Air Easton existed, and the local color came into existence a few years after Plein Air Easton started because people wanted a chance to exhibit, which is not the history at all. I mean,
No.
you guys way pre-exist these whippersnappers, these newcomers, these interlopers of Plein Air Easton. I see Al Bond coming after me with a shiv. You stay out of here, Al. You stay out of here. We got the Working Artists Forum posse lined up outside. They just took him down. They just took him. They're pummeling him, ladies and gentlemen. Al Bond is a bloody, almost unrecognized. He's crawling off now. All right, we took care of him. Anyway, those interlopers of Plein Air Easton, they come into existence. How did the Working Artists Forum welcome them initially, or was it like did local color already exist before Plein Air Easton?
Oh no, it was very much of a collaborative effort.
Okay.
And the thought was that when the concept of developing a Plein Air Forum in Easton for an event that would embrace the whole town. There was also Working Artists Forum, the president at that time, I think, was Jean Salisbury. She really felt it was important to engage local artists who weren't necessarily plein air painters. And so there was a collaboration right from the beginning, in 2004, to establish local color. And the local color was primarily for local artists in the general area of Easton that could exhibit their work. At that time, it was not plein air. It was only primarily studio work. That ultimately changed a few years later when plein air work was included in the local color exhibits. But initially, it was just studio work.
So would you say in the last few years there are more artists who are primarily or substantially plein air artists in the Working Artists Forum? Is that a trend you would say is increasing?
Oh, definitely. And I think that's not only for Working Artists Forum. I also think it's a trend in all art organizations. I think that there's a lot more people painting outdoors.
Why do you think that has gotten popular, and why do any of you think it's gotten popular?
Well, I think there's an awful lot of hype, to be perfectly honest. There's a lot of publicity. There's a lot of plein air magazines out there and opportunities to read more about plein air work. And there's nothing better than being outside and painting, let's face it.
Except for ticks.
The ticks, right. The ticks and the really hot heat. But,
right.
But yeah, I think it's become more more popular. And I think if you asked a majority of artists, they'd say that they did a little bit of plein air work as well as studio work. And a lot of people, what they do is that they get their initial thoughts, and they put on paper their, initial drawings, plein air, and then they decide back in the studio if they want to make it into a larger work.
Right, right.
So I think there is a good, both pieces working together.
So do you do plein air work yourself?
I do.
So let's talk a little about your journey and how you came to this. So she's from Baltimore, ladies and gentlemen. She's from Baltimore.
But I'm a New Englander at heart.
Okay, let's go back to that. Where did you start out?
I'm from Massachusetts. I'm a very small town. And
What small town?
I grew up in Easton, Massachusetts.
Easton. Who knew there was one of them?
Yeah.
Easton, Massachusetts. Where's that? Where's
It's
that?
actually a little bit south of Boston, and it's somewhat known as a college town. Stonehill College is there.
Ah, okay.
But when I grew up there, we was only maybe about 8,000 to 10,000 people, and not too dissimilar from maybe what Easton, Maryland was like many years ago. So anyway, I'm pretty much a Boston girl. From there, I've been a lifelong painter since I can remember, and I from there met my husband, who was a Marylander, and then we ended up we stayed in Boston for a while and then ended up in Norwich, Vermont. He was in grad school there at Dartmouth, and I actually worked at the local hospital there, Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center. They had the largest replacement facility of a hospital in the country, and it was even on 60 Minutes.
The largest what replacement?
Replacement. They rebuilt a whole hospital, and they moved the current hospital into the new hospital while there were still patients there.
Whoa.
So I did that, and then we moved back to Maryland. It has a longer sailing season. We're a sailing family, and so we raised our 2 girls sailing on the Chesapeake Bay. And again, I've been an artist my whole life. And my mother, while I wanted to go to art school, she highly suggested that I should try to do something that I could support myself with immediately. And so I ended up going to nursing school instead.
Ah.
But yeah, so we've been in Maryland
Okay, and so you have painted throughout your life?
my whole life.
And do you feel, yesterday I came down from Vermont, got on the Acela in New Haven, and was surrounded by people who did not look, I'm covered in cat hair, looking out the window, reading a book. I'm surrounded by people who are dressed very nicely, very crisply. Crisp was the word that kept springing to mind. And they're all typing away on laptops. And none of them looked like they were enjoying themselves one bit.
No, probably not.
So in your professional life, has the painting kind of been a sanity-keeping counterpart to the work?
I think that painting is an opportunity to be really creative. I'm a very creative person, and I think sometimes in the business world, you don't have as many opportunities to be creative. And it's always been an anchor for me. I know that when my siblings, I lost 2 siblings, and I remember during that time I painted up a storm, and I actually think I produced probably the best paintings ever, because I think that painting has an opportunity for you to let out a lot of emotions that you have inside while being extremely creative. And I think that in the business world, you don't necessarily have an opportunity to do that.
Right.
Unless you work at an Apple, where they provide all kinds of things, for you to pursue your creative interests.
Right. I'm sorry.
We have a Facebook question.
Let's have a Facebook question.
This is from Helen.
Oh, we don't take Helen's questions. Anyone but Helen.
She asked, are most of the Working Artists Forum members local? And do you have a concrete studio gallery space where you exhibit as a group? Working Artists Forum or local color?
That's a really good question, and you don't have to be live in the Eastern Shore to be in Working Artists Forum. Clearly, I live in Baltimore, and I'm a member, but you have to go through the rigorous judging to be able to get in. In terms of where we exhibit, Local Color is our largest exhibition. And it's probably the most prestigious because it's association with Plein Air Easton, and because there's so much effort that goes into publicizing this event, and the traffic is huge. And so this is our biggest event. We also exhibit at the Strathmore in Bethesda, a few other locations throughout Maryland, and that's been expanding.
And what is the Strathmore?
The Strathmore is, it's a large exhibit space, music space in Bethesda, Maryland.
Okay. So back to, I want to think a little about kind of how the role of art can change in somebody's life. If you've got someone who is a business person who is using art as, using the painting practice as a release from the other duties, I would tend to say stultifying boredom of professional life, but that would be prejudicial. The different challenges of a life in business. Painting gives you an escape from that. That's a very different role from, there's a bit more of recreation in the sense of recreation in that pursuit, as opposed to like the work at Plein Air Easton, which is, that is not done for relaxation purposes. This is done for, as a pursuit, both for the awards and for sales and for trying to, most of the artists, my cohort here, we're trying to make good art, and I think everybody is trying to make good art, but if you're working professionally and you're doing art recreationally, then do you think the role of art changes as one's life opens up to allow for doing more art?
I think you're right on that, actually, because there's more, when you're working professionally and making a career out of it, you also have to be concerned with, your balance sheet. So it's your expenses, it's what you're selling, what you're bringing in. And so I do think that while it still maintains itself as a creative relaxation pursuit, there's also maybe a little bit more pressure on that to keep getting better and better.
Because the thing that's funny about doing art full time is that it's not as miserable as creative writers. They're a truly miserable group. They're never happy. They're just always, they're the ones who are drinking Drano at the end of the day. Painters, we go through moments of thinking that we're doing something good, and then the self-doubt starts and the inner voice, and then it's awful, and you put it away, and then you look at it the next day, and it's not quite as bad as you thought it was, but blah, 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 blah. But it's trying to touch the golden fleece, it's trying to express something you're never going to quite be able to do. And I think the more you do it, the more that actually becomes part of the challenge, part of the fun in kind of a cosmic sense, that kind of cosmic dialogue with perfection that we can't reach. Whereas if you're just doing it to get out of your workaday head, it's like, let me just put some marks down, let me just put some color down, let me just make some sort of splash to help my brain. as you are continuing in your pursuit, and I noticed in the portfolio on your website, you have a fairly wide range of styles. You know,
Yes.
is your work evolving? How is your work changing?
Well, practice makes perfect. Although you
I
never,
would hope, but I don't think that's true. I think practice makes incremental improvement.
but I don't think anybody can reach perfection with art because you're always striving for that next level and trying to improve. I like a lot of different things. I have a lot of interests, so I love painting architecture. I like plein air. I do a lot of animals. I love landscape and maritime. I love maritime. And so, yeah, I do a lot of different things. And I have, I'm sorry.
A question, because I was wondering about that as you were talking earlier. You have a gorgeous artistic necklace on. Did you make it?
Okay, I heard that.
Oh,
And
yes,
I will recite people's questions. So since I have the bully pulpit, AKA the microphone here, she said, you are wearing a beautiful necklace. A beautiful artistic necklace. Did
Okay.
you create that?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kindness. No, my husband gave this to me. My favorite color is red. I wear a lot of it. And I also have a red car, which I love. And so I got this as a gift one day, and I loved it. So I wear it a lot. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Well, she is, and I may say, our questioner is wearing red shoes, has red lipstick, and it looks like red pants. So
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have a karma going on.
yeah.
And the second question I wanted to ask is, when you paint plein air, as opposed to painting in a studio, do you sometimes put a plein air painting up in an exhibition and then you look at it and think, oh, I wish I had time to work on that in the studio because I could have improved it a lot?
Okay, I'm going to recite that. I'm gonna
Okay,
say it
sure.
again. She's wondering if, when you do a plein air piece, do you ever put a plein air piece in a studio show, and then when you're looking at it up against the studio work, say, damn, I really wish I could have worked on that a little bit more.
That's a really good question. And I think that most plein air artists will tell you that, you know, you can always work on something, whether or not you overwork it, or that's another question in itself. I do on occasion put a plein air piece in a show, but I have to really, really like it a lot. And I use a lot of color, and I really like a lot of color, but if the piece isn't any good, I don't put it in. And I do use a lot of plein air pieces for study and to see if I want to make a larger painting out of it or do it again in a different format. So,
Okay, I'm going to answer that question as well, because I think it is a really interesting question. I view my plein air practice as primarily just that, a practice, as opposed to statement making. I'm not trying to swing for the fences when I do plein air work. What I view it as is here as an event like this, Plein Air Easton, like 5 to 7 days, 7 days of intensive painting. In reality, this year, I am not doing many plein air events, but I said what I'm going to do this summer is get out and paint between Bellows Falls, Vermont, and Northampton, Massachusetts, which is basically where I've spent much of my adulthood. I haven't been getting out and doing that because I keep putting it off. You know, I get out one afternoon and do one painting, and then 5 days later I get another painting done. The great thing about an event like this is you gotta get out there and you gotta produce. You get up in the morning, at least I try to do a morning painting, then I take a nap, then I do an afternoon painting. Next day you get up and do that again, and by the end of 5 days, you're getting into shape, you know. And if you then go from Easton to Door County, you know, you're you've got your marathon shoes on by the time you get up to door. It's terrific in terms of that discipline and making sure you can see. It is also terrific for kind of journalistic. I am depicting what is in front of me. I'm not trying to make really sophisticated. I'm not bringing in any outside elements in the stories I'm telling when I'm working plein air. I am drawing solely from what is in front of me. In the studio, I may be working from, I'll have a plein air drawing, a photo reference, a complete just abstract collection of blocks and stuff. You know, I'm pulling from all sorts of different things. I think for me, I work monochromatically plein air, and that is because I don't want to, aside from not being very good with color, I don't want that distraction where I'm going to try to solve the problems of creating a successful work of art. I don't want the temptation of color to solve the problem for me. Plein air stuff to me is a chance to really concentrate on the values and edges that chroma, it's easy to take away from having to worry about that. So I think it's fascinating to see all the different ways that people respond to the challenges of plein air painting. Yes?
You had asked earlier why you thought plein air was becoming more popular. And the one thing I've noticed is that the paintings tend to have a freer feel, and people, I think, might like them.
Okay, and that's Jock, right? That's Mr. McLeese right there, ladies and gentlemen. That is a celebrity in our midst. Is the sailing guru of the
That's
Chesapeake Bay.
Good captain.
He says in his observation that the plein air work often has kind of a greater spontaneity, more freedom of mark making than one sees in studio work. Would you say that's?
I would, and the reason you're basically chasing the sun,
Right.
And you have to paint fast because you come noontime, everything is just flat. So
Right. I know, that's morning painters, ladies and gentlemen. That's like for the professional depressive, because you start out with great light and the light gets worse, and then it ends with everything being flat. The afternoon painting is for the optimist, because you start out with everything being kind of blasted out, and then the light gets better and better and better and better and better. So
it's so true. Yeah.
anyway, so now how long have you been involved with Working Artists Forum?
I think I've been involved for 4 or 5 years, and this is my second year as chairman of Local Color, and it's a huge proposition because planning starts in November, and I work with a tremendous group of volunteers, and it takes a village to put it together, and probably a smaller village than Plein Air Easton, but we work very closely with Marie Nuttall from Plein Air Easton, and she is just a delight. And I don't know how she keeps all the balls in the air, but she certainly does. And it's been a really nice working collaboration. And but we have, like, for example, for the show, we have 35 volunteers throughout the show, which opens tomorrow at noon. Charlie is our judge this year because he was the best in show last year at Plein Air Easton.
Well, actually, I've been the best in show every year, but I only got noticed for it last year.
And it's pretty historical that whoever wins best in show the following year, they will be the judge of Local Color. And the person who comes in second will be the juror because Local Color is a juried show. And this year we had, I think, 85 or 90 applicants and only 42 are accepted.
Is that
So,
every year it's just 42?
yes.
And that's like, is it for the same reason that Plein Air Easton is always 58?
When Plein Air Easton started, it was 50. I don't know what it is now.
I think it's 58, but it is whatever the limit is for the space in the art museum.
Right.
Which I love. Is that the reason you
That's
guys are always
right. We
42?
have-
Or is it because that is the number that is the secret of the universe in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
We have enough panels for 42 artists from a practical standpoint. So, and then also we have 3 extra panels for the award winners. Once Charlie announces them, their paintings will go up on those panels. So-
Right, and if any members of the local color are listening to this, I do accept bribes. $20 is considered the appropriate starting. Just take that into account as you're budgeting the rest of your week. So 42 artists.
Correct.
And each artist gets, is it a certain number of paintings or a certain amount of space? Or how is it chosen, the number of paintings that they get in?
Each artist gets 1 panel, which is the same as the panel size behind me, and I think it's 65 by 35. And
So
they-
if Krista Pisano, or a Krista Pisano type, was in local color, they could put up 30 paintings?
That's correct.
Okay, and if John Sills was there, he could put up 2
Or 1.
or 1, or Tim Bell.
Right, exactly.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. So the artists get to choose how to present themselves once
Right.
they've been juried in.
Right.
Interesting. So over the time you've been doing this, what have been some of the most interesting of the panels that people have put up?
It is such a joy. I mean, right now, at 2:30, the show will be completely installed, and
You hope.
it will be.
You left. You left.
It will be, and I have to say, it is such a joy seeing all of the beautiful work. And it's just, the presentation in the fellowship hall at Christ Church is incredible. It's so light-filled, and it's beautifully laid out, and it's just always a surprise to me, because each year it seems to get better and better. And it's just really thrilling. And it's not just oils, it's pastels, it's watercolors, it's gouache. One of the winners last year had a beautiful graphite painting with a gentleman using the saxophone. And it's just a really nice mix.
And would you say that the scale of the work has remained about the same over the years, or do you see any trends toward larger or smaller, or is it all over the place?
Well, the limitation is the size of the panel. So there have been a couple of complaints that the panels aren't large enough, but we can't do anything about that. That's the panel. And so I think in general, a lot of the painters that do exhibit at Local Color do larger works, but I think they have a tendency to put smaller works in the show
Interesting.
to fit more paintings on the panel.
Okay. So, and is the audience that attends Local Color, do you guys do your own publicity around Local Color, or do you piggyback on Plein Air Easton?
Well, I have to be so grateful to Plein Air Easton, because they include us in all of their publicity, and this year in particular, it's been superb. We also have a publicity manager and a website manager, and also a social media manager. And so those are 3 other opportunities to get the word out. But I have to say, I mean, Plein Air Easton, they enjoy our experience. They enjoy the fact that we are putting on 4 or 5 demos every year. Charlie, by the way, will have a demo after he judges tomorrow at the second floor of the Fellowship Hall. And that also has been very customary. The judge usually puts on a demo directly after the judging. And so his demo will be tomorrow from 1 to 3. At
Good to know, good
Yeah.
to know.
So, yeah, so it's been, I think it's a combination, but if I was to do percentages, I think that Plein Air Easton probably does 75%, and we probably do 25%. But I have to say, the person who's in charge of our printed publicity, she does an amazing job, because every whip stitch, there's something in a local paper here, you know, talking about local color. So it's very exciting. And we're, like I said, it's not me, even though I'm just in charge of it, but it's mostly the people that I work with that do the lion's share of the work. They're just an amazing group of men and women.
Now, but you're stepping down at the end of this year, aren't you? Or-
I am. I've done it for 2 years, and I really think it's important to let someone else step up. I've loved to volunteer. I love to volunteer. Volunteered my whole life, and every organization I've ever been part of, I really felt that it was my duty to do something with that organization, because I think you get more out of the organization. And I had a way of doing local color for the past couple of years, and I'm sure whoever else comes in will do maybe a better job than I've done.
And do you get a bunch, is there a dedicated group who comes to see local color year after year? Or is it primarily Plein Air Easton people who drift over to local color? How would you describe the audience intermix?
Well, for example, last year there was a woman, a couple. They're as sweet as can be. They've been coming to local color since the beginning. They make an effort to come every year. They love the work. They don't. They do live here. They also live somewhere in upstate New York, but they just love it. We also have the benefit of getting the patrons that come to Plein Air Easton, and I think the publicity really helps with that, letting people know that where we are, what they can expect to see there. And for example, all the demos, we have 4 demos, 2 tomorrow and 2 on Friday, and the flyers for the demos are right up there at the table at Plein Air Easton table, so that it lets people know what's going on. And Plein Air Easton does a fabulous job, because every day you have another bulletin on your phone, at least I do, about what's going on, and it's fabulous. So,
Now I'm looking at the local color art show and sale demo list here.
Yes.
And it is artists of the first water, ladies and gentlemen. Let me say, not only does it start with Charlie Hunter, local color judge, so it starts right there. Then it moves on to Zufar Bikbov. Now, Zufar Bikbov, you all know Zufar? Yes, and you also know the Zufar Bikbov song, right? Zufar Bikbov, eating cheese, spends a lot of money, calls his girlfriend honey, spreads disease. I made that one up myself. Mick McAndrews, a great watercolorist.
yeah,
And then Neil Hughes, Neil is an astonishing painter.
he's amazing, and he's also just a fabulous guy, wonderful guy.
Says you.
Says me.
Oh, that man, he'll cut you as leaf as look at you. No, Neil is a great painter, wonderful people. That is a great slate of demos. Do you ever get, it is kind of heavy on the men though, I gotta say.
We do have some women, but mostly it depends on, the tenant is that whoever we get for demos, they have come in at the top of Plein Air Easton in terms of awards. So whoever that is.
Yeah. Now, do you ever get pushback from local color artists of why aren't there local color artists doing demos? Or are they understanding that you need the star power of a Zufar Bikbov?
Well, as a matter of fact, we will have a couple of Working Artists Forum, local color artists that will be giving, demos on location during the show. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but they just show up with their easel and they start to paint, and that's always been very spontaneous and very welcome. A lot of people really enjoy seeing the artists painting.
Now, around the country, how many other organizations analogous to Working Artists Forum do you know of? Do you feel like it is pretty, I know things can't be pretty unique. They're either unique or they're not unique. Do you think Working Artists Forum is unique, or do you think there are entities sort of like it around the country?
You know, Charlie, I think that's a really good question, and that's something I'd like to look into because I don't know the answer to that. But I do think that Working Artists Forum is a really unique group. I really do. But I'd like to find out more about it.
Cool. Okay, and so then what is next after your triumphant tenure as...
Well, what's next for me? I belong to other organizations, and it's an opportunity to volunteer elsewhere, spend more time painting. I also have a couple of clients that I help out. You know, painting is a very solitary endeavor. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm very much of a people person. And so I really need to get out there and be with other people. So I'm not sure what I'll do next, but I'll be painting. I'm just not sure where I'll be volunteering.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Carol McLeese.
Charlie,
Yep,
can I just say one more thing, Charlie?
No, of course you can. What?
I just want everybody to know, because this is so important, the proceeds from all the sales at Local Color go to the elementary schools in the greater Easton area. Last year, we gave money to 33 elementary schools for their art programs. And these are schools that are underfunded for their particular art supplies, and so we give them a big chunk of money every year. So we gave to, I think, 6 counties and 33 schools. And it's really exciting because when we deliver the checks, the children are so excited, the teachers are thrilled, and it just makes you feel like we're really paying it forward and we're really helping out and maybe fostering some future artists. And I think that philanthropy is really very important.
Well, yeah, let's actually, we have time to drill down on that a little bit more. I mean, I think it's insane education policy that always, the first thing to be cut is art and music. And art and music is how we as human beings deal with the inherent pain of existence, I think. Was that always the plan with what to do with the money from Local Color? Was it always going to local schools?
I think that the evolution of the going to local schools, I think, developed over time. I'm not sure exactly when, but I know that that's been pretty much, at least for the past 15 or 20 years, it's been going to local schools.
Is that all of the proceeds that the artists don't get anything?
The artist, it's a percentage split, and but the proceeds of everything that we sell goes to the children. And it's just such a great cause. And so please come out and look at our paintings and buy a painting.
And buy a painting.
That's right,
yeah.
exactly.
I'll tell you all which paintings to buy. That's my job. I'll be giving a Best in Show and then three merit awards and then 3 honorable mentions, right?
There's 7 awards altogether. There's 3 honorable mentions, there's 3 awards of excellence, and then there's 1 Best in Show.
Right, so buy all of those. Yeah, yes, sir, Mr. Maven of the Chesapeake. What you got?
You mentioned earlier a number of times about the academy, wondering what it is and how it ties into Plein
Ah, that's a good question. The
It is.
Academy. How does the Academy tie in to both Plein Air Easton and Working Artists Forum?
Well, I can't speak about how the Academy ties in with the Academy Museum, but I can speak about how Working Artists Forum does. And initially, they were part of the Academy. But then in 1981, they developed their own 501(c), and so they did things there, but they weren't actually part of the group, if you will. But we still have our meetings there once a month, and
You
they're,
just sneak in the middle of the night.
yeah, and they're just, very delightful, and they really enjoy having us there as much as we enjoy being there. So.
I can answer the second part. I'm on the board of the academy.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
the lady in red can answer the question because she is on the board of the Academy.
I used to be chairman of this organization, of the Avalon Foundation.
Oh,
Now I'm on the board of the Academy. The Academy Art Museum, all of the artists who are here, all 56, entered 2 paintings into the final competition. And they're allowed to exhibit in a museum, which is a registered part of the Museum Artists, the Museum of the United States of America. So
wow.
they actually get credit in their painting for saying they've actually exhibited in a real museum. It's not like just being in a shop or somewhere else. It's an actual registered museum. So the competition, which is held on Friday evening, is a really wonderful, and there will, all of those will be in the Academy Art Museum.
All right, so those out there in internet land who couldn't hear that, the thing is that the Academy Art Museum is a registered National Art Museum. So by the 56 artists who are part of Plein Air Easton, by having their 2 pieces, their 2 competition pieces in the show at the Art Museum, they can put on their CV that they were exhibited at an accredited American art museum. Is that a fair enough summation? All right, any other questions out there, ladies and gentlemen? Any other questions? I'm looking across the sea of faces. There's a lot of crowd surfing going on. There's there are a couple of fights. They're violent this year at Plein Air Easton, ladies and gentlemen. They are fighting over which Zufar Bikbov painting they want. Oh, here comes Al Bond. He's all patched up from his little being taken down by the Working Artists Forum posse. But I think we're good. I think we've got all the questions answered. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for the Reasonably Fine Art Talk, and thank you, Carol McLeese, for an
Thank you,
excellent
Charlie.
chat.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.